then I'll go. Thought that I...
Good morning. Welcome back to Grand Columbia Live. A little frog in my throat. It's another beautiful day, but every day is not gorgeous. We are in the rainy season, and so I'll have, well, today it's blue skies and white puffy clouds. I mean, it's pretty spectacular looking out the window. But you might get 4 or 5 of those, and then you get a day or two of, well, let me just show you a few days back. You know, the thing about videos, you get to experience things that you can't be there for. The bad thing about videos is they don't really express what it's like. You know, you look at that and say, oh, yeah, it's raining. That was one hellacious downpour, one of the strongest I've seen. And I've seen some pretty bad ones. I mean, when I was living in Asia, I lived in Japan for 3 years, and one year we had this typhoon come through that was unbelievable. It had wind speeds of like 140 miles an hour, and it was raining, and the rain was going sideways. And it was that much rain. Fortunately, we didn't have much wind here, but it was pretty ferocious. Anyway, what do we got here? Good morning from Fordale. Good morning. Good morning from Rio Negro. Finally made it back to Colombia. Love your channel, Lauren. Thank you. I appreciate that. And yes, the rain is out of control, kind of boring lately. Well, it's been, actually the last few days have been really nice, but we are at that point. Now, I will say that I've seen more this year for a rainy season than I've ever seen. Going back 20 years, going back the last few years, it's a lot of rain. But I don't know, there's not a whole lot of downside to it because you know, I'm here knowing that, yeah, it's the rainy season. And that's one of the reasons why we never have droughts and we never have brown foliage. I mean, it's always green and lush and, you know, so I can't hate on it. The rain's fine. It's temporary. You know, it might slow you down on a particular day, but you got 364 other days. It's fine. So today, what are we going to do today? Well, first of all, we're going to try to stick to the 30-minute rule, so we're not going to be too long. So questions, think about them now, because what happens is when the questions start drying up, that's when I end it, and I'm not going to keep waiting for them to come. No, there's a delay. You know, so think about them now and get ready to post them. But today, we're going to talk about the video that I did on Visa, because it brought some pretty good questions, a couple things that I can clarify, and ton of comments. It brought a ton of comments. So that's what we're going to talk about. And good morning from Chicago. They're everywhere. You guys are from everywhere. I appreciate the good morning and where you're from. I appreciate that. What do we have here? All right. Now, the coffee times, the viewership has been down, and it's been, I would say a sixth of what it typically was for a couple years. And I'm not sure what that's about. Excuse me. But if you have any ideas on that, let me know. I do these because that you want them, and if you don't, then I can change up the format and just concentrate on the videos. But let's get to some of the things. Now, what happened was there was a video that came out kind of like last year talking about, not my video, talking about new changes in visa. And it was kind of all over the place. And it said a lot of things that simply were not true. And last was the same thing. There's new laws for visa and this and this and this, but there are no new laws, and it was untrue. And what happens is one flood of people that are kind of panicked over it. And so I thought I better do a video on this to clarify what's going on, because there are changes, but there's no changes in the law. What happened was the government is gone into debt over COVID thing, just like everywhere. And they're looking for places to pick up some extra money. And what they realized is that the visa laws that have been there all along have not really been enforced. I mean, you kind of come here, show a couple documents, and you're good to go. And so they're enforcing, but even what they're enforcing is really not a big deal. And so that's why I made the video. But there's some questions on it. Good morning, Nitehawk. Sorry we didn't hook up yesterday, but tomorrow we'll get there. Vegas, Florida. All right, we'll go to the first question that I got on this. I don't remember who this was, but doesn't matter. Excellent. This was some of the best information I've ever gotten on retiring to Colombia. Saw that other YouTube video, was kind of alarmed. We skipped through some of this one. When you mentioned the 6-month bank statement, did you mean 6 months after you open the new account for your new Social Security, or 6 months before coming to Colombia? Okay, that's actually a pretty good question. Excuse me. Slept with the window open. I don't know what it is. Just a little sore throat. Okay. The two things that are being required now that were kind of blown off before is, if you're renewing your visa, the proof of the EPS insurance and your last 6 months bank record. And I'm not going to cover all the details of that because that's what I did the video for. If you're getting your first time visa, and all I spoke to was retirement visa, that's all I'm speaking to. If you're getting your first time visa, the health insurance thing came up. Well, we'll go to the 6 month bank record. I want to get ahead of myself. The bank record is primarily for renewing your visa. But what you want to do is have your last 6 months of your checking, even if, let's say, you got your Social Security last month. And so on your bank record, it just shows that. That's fine. Depending who you go to, they may or may not require seeing that anyway. You will absolutely need it to renew your visa, but the first time, it's kind of a toss-up. I talked to and I'll give the information later. I'll talk to my visa people and ask them specifically these questions. And they said they're not requiring it because the reason for it is to figure out the cost of the EPS that you should have been paying if you're here. Okay, so I'm probably just confusing people, but let me go to this. Good morning from Florida. Look at all you Floridians. Be careful using Viva Air. I flew from Miami to Medellin last night, and they charged me $80 to bring my tennis racket on the plane. Ooh. Oh, my God. Why are you bringing your tennis racket? Okay, but got your point. All right, another question. First, that new applicants will need to show a full 3 years of private coverage insurance upon application. That was said in the other video. That sounds impossible. Insurance companies, I assume, have annually based policies. Okay. When you come to Colombia, this has always been there, but they just never bothered to check on it. And again, they still may not. when you go to get your visa, but be prepared in case they do. You are required when you enter into Colombia to have medical insurance. They want you to be covered. They don't want you to get sick and then be a burden on their system. So the day before you come to Colombia, you can get yourself the travel insurance. Here's what I would recommend. Let's say you're coming here and you know that you want to get your visa. So you come here, and the first week or so you apply for your visa, and within 2 weeks you're going to get back your visa and you can get your cedula, all within a month. So when you come here, just pick up travel insurance for a month so that if you are asked, you've got it. In the case of the travel insurance, they're not, it's the, your age and those things really don't come into play. So you get a month of the travel insurance. And then once you get your cedula, get your visa and your cedula, go right to the EPS office and register for that. And I explained in the video what's going on with the cost of that. So it is going to be based on your actual income. So when you come here and you get your first visa, and if you set yourself up properly, which is in that video, then they're just going to look at your Social Security. So it's 40% of that amount, then multiply times 12.5%. And if you're average person around the $13.50 mark, that's going to mean you're going to be paying about $60-some for the EPS insurance each month. The EPS insurance is a requirement. Now, I had my overseas military medical with my card and verification and all of that. So before I didn't need it because their only concern was that I was covered and I wouldn't become a burden on the system if something happened. But now, because they're actually enforcing that they didn't care before. I actually asked about it. They didn't care. But now they care. So I have to, this coming month, or within the next 6 months, I have to go sign up for EPS, which is fine. I was going to do it anyway, just with the quarantine. That actually just kind of threw everything off. And then once quarantine was over, I had so many things to do. It just was way down on my priority list. If I got sick, I don't need it. But I will do it. It is a requirement to have the EPS. In other words, support the medical system if you're going to live here. Doesn't amount to a whole lot of money. So if you're coming here first time for the visa, no, you don't need 3 years worth of private insurance. That was a bunch of crap. You can just walk in the door with your travel insurance and you're good to go. I think American Express actually has a program. They can provide that for next to nothing, or it might even be part of having the American Express. I used to have American Express, but it was a long time ago. Secondly, many people interested in retirement visas are older with existing health problems. So the issue of finding companies willing to, well, the travel visa for that short term, it won't be an issue. And when you come to sign up for your EPS, age and pre are not issues. You can't be rejected for it. Getting private insurance is restricted to people, depending on what company you go to. It could be 60, 62, or 65, or certain levels of coverage. But the basic EPS insurance, which is all you really need to have, everything else is like a cherry on top. But the basic EPS coverage, you could be 72 years old and you previously had a heart problem. Doesn't matter. You're going to be covered. I think there's a month delay before you can use it, but I think that applies to everybody. Does health EPS insurance available for 72 years? Yep, answered that. Yes. Thirdly, the question of renewals, where the other video suggested applicants would need both Colombia public system and a private plan in addition. Found it to be hard to believe. Yeah, your intuition, your speculation is correct. It's the only thing wearing is EPS. And The reason they're cracking down again is because they need money. And by getting your bank record and actually making sure that you paid based on your Social Security amount rather than the minimum that they did before is the difference. So for each person, they're picking up, we'll say the average Social Security retiree, they're picking up $20 to $30 more a month, which is pretty significant when you figure that out over 20 some thousand people. So anyway, there's that. I'm not sure it is advisable. This is kind of a different thing. I made a suggestion that you might want to consider canceling your Medicare B if you're going to be living here. I'm not sure you want to cancel Medicare, especially for someone just moving to Colombia. A lot of people only stay in another country for a year or even less, and then decide to move back to the U.S. If you suspend Medicare and then want to re-enroll, do you have to pay a penalty a month for the rest of your life? I know that's the way it works. If you don't enroll when you first are eligible and decide to enroll later, you have to pay every month forever. Okay, first of all, Medicare B, you don't enroll. They will automatically put you in Medicare B, whether you do it or not. So there's no enrollment. It's an automatic thing. And it amounts to, what is 130 to 160, somewhere in that range a month that they're going to deduct from your Social Security. And here's the thing. $160 or $130 over 12 months is a significant amount of money. Now, it isn't necessarily that you get a penalty if you decide to reinstate it, but you'll pay a higher rate. But the higher rate isn't that much more. It's in dollars, not in tens of dollars. So even if you come here for a year and decide, okay, I'm going to move back and I want to have my Medicare B, and so you sign up for it, and they say, okay, instead of $140, you're now going to pay $150. It's going to be a very long time before that $1,200, $1,300 gets washed out, if you follow what I'm saying. But if you're going to be here for a while or retire, I'm here 2 years, 5 years in Ecuador, 2 years now. I have no plans on leaving Armenia at all. I don't even have a side thought. If I have any medical issues, it'll all be handled here. So, for me, it's a no-brainer. Why pay out $130, $160 a month, whatever that amount is? It's somewhere in that range, when I will never take a benefit from it. You can't use it here. So you're paying that money for absolutely nothing. So it's up to you to consider that. What he said is true it's not true that you have to enroll. That'll be automatic. So then you have to fill out a form and go through the process to have it dropped. I had to go through that. It's a bit of an issue here. It took about 3 months to get done. If you're doing it while you're in the United States, you can have it done in a couple weeks. But there's that. And the other thing is, it's not exactly a penalty. You could look at it that way, but it will be a little bit higher cost if you decide to reinstate it. But the bottom line is, you can reinstate it. And how things work out over time, you're getting cost of living increases. So there's a larger picture than just the thought of that. So, weigh it out for yourself. That was, just a suggestion. If you're living on $1,300 a month or $1,100 or whatever it is, $150, whatever it is in that range, is a significant amount of money to not receive anything for, just have it deducted from you or nothing. So, what we have here, to clarify, I recall the other video. Let me pull this up here. To clarify, I recall the other video suggested for renewal, you now would need both ES and it's not true. Yeah, it's absolutely not true. All you need is EPS. All right, we're going to get to the questions here in a minute, but I'll show this one. What if you don't have Social Security or pension, but substantial savings, around 200,000? Okay, what you can do, first blush, no, you can't get a retirement visa, but you can. And what you want to do is go talk to an accountant, somebody who handles these things, and have it set up in an account like a trust account where you'll be able to receive dividends for consistent dividends, consistent amount, interest, however you set it up, so that, tell them that you want to have $1,200 a month. You want to put that in, and I want to set up as $1,200 a month, and then receive the documentation. If that's what you're doing, in that case, get it certified and apostilled while you're in the United States. You don't have to do these other things because they take it to the U.S. Embassy in Bogota, and the U.S. Embassy that your Social Security or your 401k, they can verify those things. But when it comes to a private account like this, they don't have access to do it. So do that yourself. You'll need to get that certified and apostilled. It can be done. Just if you talk to an accountant, they're going to know what you're talking about, and they'll have a few suggestions for you. That's what you want to set up. Then you can come as a retiree, retirement visa, because you'll have a consistent amount of guaranteed funds. You may receive a little extra scrutiny on it, but if you have all your ducks in a row, it should go through. Colombia, contrary to the social media comments about it's getting so much harder to get a visa, it's not at all. It's not difficult. They're not putting roadblocks up. They want people to come here, and they've made it very simple. And if you've gone through other countries' process, you will understand that it's relatively, well, it's very inexpensive, and it's very simple. You don't have a lot of requirements, but you do fulfill the requirements that they have. But even in the past, even those, they would look away. But now, if it's a requirement, make sure. I'm going to throw this up. Okay, this is the immigrant office I've used. I've referred, I don't know, a dozen people probably to them. If you're going to be living in Manizales or Pereira or Armenia, in this part of the coffee region, they're located in Pereira. So let's say you're in Manizales, they're very simple to get to, or here, simple to get to. But you only really have to go once. You'll see their email on here, so take a look at it. If you've got questions about getting a visa, send it off to them. Now, they've got an actual office, they've got employees, but there's only really one person that will handle it, and that's Luz, a very nice lady. Her husband speaks some English. She doesn't. I didn't have any problem with it, and she's very patient, and I dealt with her a couple years ago. But if you send an email, you might want to use Google Translate, or send it in English. They'll use Google Translate. It won't be a big deal. So you can work that out with them. And what I would do is whatever circumstances you have, pose it to them. I'm going to give one more bit of advice before I get off this. A lot of people want to show off, look, I've got all this income. Don't have to worry about me. I'm going to be a stellar citizen. I've got my Social Security, but then I got a private pension. Then I've also got savings, and they're going to throw all that information out there. And that's a huge mistake. Only provide the information that you're required to give at the bare minimum. Trust me on this. You don't want to overcomplicate what's going on. And last thing is, that's what the visa looks like. People are going to freak out, say, oh, you're putting your information on there. There's nothing on here that I have to worry about. The passport, you have to take it without your glasses. But this is what the visa looks like. This was 2 years ago, and in 1 year, I've got to go get it renewed. And then after that, after 2 years of that 3-year visa, they have the option of getting a dual citizenship if I want. Okay, so that's that. Let's get to, it's Q&A time. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. I hope I didn't make that as clear as mud for you. What do we got here? Charles Schwab account, better or Capital One for retirement? Well, if you're only going to have one account, I've got a Schwab, I've got a Capital One. And I have found Capital One to be absolutely flawless, without any issues, without any complications. Money goes in, you use your ATM card, pull money out. If you need a larger expense than what the ATM will do over a couple of days, I use World Remit. They can send up to like $4,000 or $5,000. And that's what I would suggest. Now, I know personally a lot of people that use Schwab, they love it, they swear by it. I have a Schwab account that I set up, but I'm not using it yet. And that's because in the video I explained, over the next 5 months, I have to set up everything so that I'm prepared to go in for my visa renewal. So I need to put my Social Security in the Schwab account. And I'm not going to do that, for another month or two, because when you change accounts, there can be delay. I can't afford a delay. It may not delay, but there's a potential. And so in the meantime, I'm going to find out what's the best day to switch to mitigate possible delay, find out any information on that. So I'm preparing for it. I've got 5 months, so there's no rush. And then I'll put everything through the Capital One that has to do with this channel and keep that solely recorded in the United States for any kind of IRS information here, because as I said in the video, here they will view it only as income and they won't take into account the expenses, which at the end of the year are pretty much a wash. It costs me as much as on average, for this channel. I'd like it more, but it is what it is. So I don't want to be penalized for the money that's in without regard to that's not reflected in their paperwork. So now that may be unique only to me. So if I don't have any kind of situation where with any other income or further income, then one account fine. Tip to Americans planning on moving abroad: open an online My SSA account now. You need a U.S. address to do that. They will use your U.S.-based credit report to verify your identity. That's absolutely true. I will tell you this: do not eliminate a U.S. address. Keep a U.S. address as your address of record. You don't want to cut the ties. You don't want to report that you're living overseas, just on an extended vacation. Trust me on this. You will thank me later. It flips you into a different category where every year you have to prove that you're still alive. If you're U.S., you don't have to do that. There's complications in doing that. So that feeling of showing off your income and bragging that you're living overseas and stuff, it's not a good idea. But that's great advice. Any progress getting your driver's license? I'm in the same boat. I'd rather not take the driving course. There's an alternative. There's an alternative that I don't have access to. Somebody mentioned, in Circassia or Calarca, there's an office. That's the wrong office. And I'm just going to break down and I'm just going to go to the classes. Now, if you're in Medellin, you can pay a little bit more and basically get rubber stamped. Then you only have to get your medical and what's the and the written exam. But I'm going to go ahead and go through the classes. I don't know if that's even an option here. It probably is. It's not supposed to take place. But here's the thing. I've got time. I don't have the extra to pay for that benefit. But the other thing is maybe I'm going to learn something. Plus, you meet people. You're there every day with them. That's fine. I tend to be a hermit as it is. This is an opportunity for me to expand the group of people that I know, which is pretty good size, but who knows? So I'm not going to shut that down. I will probably go, I get my next payment in a couple weeks and probably go like within a day or two of that. I've given up on the idea of the other. I've spent way too much time. I could have had my license by now. Where are we at? We are 2 years before getting Social Security. Do we have chance to get a long-term visa? Maybe. Email those people and tell them your circumstances. There are other possibilities, but if you're doing a student visa, for example, they are verifying those now, where before you just applied for a student visa and you didn't even have to show up. And a lot of things are being done online, so it's still not very intrusive, but they are doing verification. So you obey the laws. Don't be that guy. So. But I'm not an expert on visas, and I'm certainly not an expert on other kinds of visa. I've read all the information, but I put that information about that office up because they are experts. They know what they're doing. I've yet to meet a single person who's had any kind of issue with them. Applying for a retirement visa, are there any requirements of how much time in the year you have to spend in Colombia? Well, not in applying for it, but once you have your visa, and I think it's 6 months. They're pretty liberal with it. You can go back and forth, but again, I'm not sure. So I'm not going to pretend. I did look this up once before when considering living in Ecuador for half a year and here half a year. And back then it was 6 months, and that was what my plan was built around. But check that, email them and ask them that. Okay. But you have to report taxes on Social Security income. Well, maybe not. If it's below a certain amount, no, you don't have to file taxes because you're not going to pay taxes, so they don't require it. Now, if you have income over what that threshold is, and I don't remember now, 2,200 or whatever it is, and if you were in the U.S. or here, it makes no difference. Then you would have to, file with the IRS and do what you have to do. But if you're in the average, I'm below the average, but if you're in the 1350, which is the average Social Security, yes, you can file with the IRS, but it's kind of less. As a matter of fact, if you go online, I did this. If you go online to one of the tax outfits and fill your stuff out, when you get to the end, they tell you that they won't even file it because there's no need to file it. And so I stopped doing it. There's no need to do it. Now with mine, I don't want to get into mine personally, but I take into account, what I get from the channel and what my expenses are. And I document that information. All right. My understanding is if you use a Schwab more than 6 months out of the year outside of the US, they don't like that and may shut your account down. I'm that, and I know a lot of people that use this Schwab account, and I know a number of people that have been out of the U.S. for a number of years, and buy the Schwab account. I also don't think banks operate on things that they like or don't like. They'll have either a rule for that or not. Charles Schwab, one of the reasons they're popular is because they will operate overseas. I mean, you can actually open an account online. I did. And so I don't think that's true. I think that's rumor. But, check with Charles Schwab. Read through their information, send off an email to their support, before you get it. But Capital One's not a problem. The only thing I had to do with Capital One, I've had Capital One for a long time. So 7 years ago, when I came down to South America, they required once a month that I report that I was out of the United States. Well, at some point, they no longer require that, not just of me, but they changed their rules. And now report one time and that's it. Occasionally, I'll get an email from them saying, we see these actions and they're all out of country. Are these legitimate or not? And I just press yes, they're fine. And then I get a thank you. We appreciate your cooperation. Disregard. Yeah, that's fine. I'm glad that they're checking. It's painless. I don't get, they didn't try to stop any of those transactions. They all went through, but then they sent an email off. So I've gotten that, I think, a total of 2 or 3 times over the years. Do you think Bucaramanga would have a visa agent like the one used? Oh, I'm sure they would. Everywhere has them. Now, some people said, I got a comment, it sounds like you're discouraging going to a lawyer. Well, yes and no. What I've noticed in talking to people that have actually gone through the process, and I do every chance I get, is the ones with a lawyer tend to be more problematic. And that's because the lawyers are not dealing with it as frequently as the offices that are dedicated to doing nothing but getting visas. And it makes sense. I mean, if they're every day into these offices, they're going to be on top of any changes that come along, where a lawyer who may do one a month or one every couple months or whatever it is for that particular lawyer, he may not be aware of certain things. Also, lawyers tend to have overkill. It seems like, and I'm speaking not just here in Colombia, actually, but speaking to Colombia, they're going to have you get things that you won't need. And that can be pretty frustrating. And it just kind of overcomplicates it. So that's why I'm a fan of the visa office, and I've become a real fan since not only how mine went, but everybody that I know was gone through. These visa offices are probably the way to go. When you open a Social Security account, will they use your credit report to verify who you are? I believe somebody said yes. I haven't done it in a long time. I opened mine 8-9 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I do remember having to do, I think what they had was a series of questions that come from your credit report, like, have you ever lived in this address? Or maybe they'll have 4 addresses listed and they'll say, A, B, C, or D, which address do you live in? I kind of vaguely remember that. So, have you ever owned this automobile? So I think they take information from your credit report and that's how they address it. It's not like I had to go get anything. So yes, they do have to do that. Somebody can verify. I'm quite sure that's how I had to go through, now that I'm thinking about it. But it wasn't a big deal, so unless your memory is crap. I believe I had to look up a couple things because really, man, it was 30, 40 years ago, but okay. Financial institution can change their rules or merge. Well, that's true. Another thing about Capital One, I chose them long before, although I never used them in the U.S. for years for their checking, but they're a very unlikely bank to be merged. I don't want to go into the long explanation how I came to that conclusion, but it's held up over the last 8 or 9 years that I've had them. They're still Capital One, where other banks are not. They're just designed for what I'm doing, the 360 checking account, and therefore I recommend them. Anything can happen. I mean, who knows when the world goes bankrupt and the socialists take over, over COVID restrictions and lockdowns. Who knows what it's going to be? But right now, and through the 7 years I've been down here, it's been flawless. Yes, just want to make sure it's a legal transaction, not theft. Thanks, Craig. Yes, they asked questions. Okay. All right. We're running over on time. I think that's it. Probably beat that horse to death. Only 28 people watching, but hey, I'm grateful for the 28 people, and I appreciate you being here. I'm constantly reevaluating, but somebody did ask, because I'm doing a reevaluation, does that mean I might stop the channel? No, I already went through that. I have no intention of stopping the channel. I'll keep it going. But I don't want to put my effort into something that doesn't have value to people watching. And so that's why I'm always reevaluating. I'm always considering opinions that I get. I'm always soliciting those opinions. Now, some of them, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to do that, though. I've been there, done that. But I really appreciate them. And what's this? Does Capital One issue a debit card? It's a debit card. It's a MasterCard debit card. So, yeah, I'm telling you, they're perfect. If you need one, I don't think you're going to go wrong with it. The thing I dealt with Schwab is I opened the account, I did it online, everything was fine, but it really is an investment account, and they want me to invest. And I know that you don't have to, but I do have to transfer money into it. And before I can get a debit card from them, it's got to be a certain amount. I don't know what that is. I mean, I kind of stopped looking at that point because I just needed to open the account. As I said, I've got months to plan this out. So one day when I have time, I'll sit down and I'll sort it out. And then I'll have to wait for the debit card to come in. But even then, they are set up to do transfers. And not the wire where you have to pay $30 or something like that, but you can actually set up your Capital One, for example, and then transfer money from your Schwab into that bank account. And that's an offshoot of the fact that they are an investment account, so that you have that option, where with other banks you don't have that. So that's a plus, and I did notice that, and that may very well be the way I go. But if they're willing to send me a debit card, I'll take it. Probably just use it as a backup in case I lose something. Okay. Everything travel is down globally. Blame you know what. Well, travel here to Colombia is pretty much normal. I mean, they're going to make you wear a face mask on the airplane. Somebody told me that you even have to give you these plastic shield things, which are really funny. So you can pretend you're welding while you're on your flight down here for the 4 or 5 hours. But that may be a particular airline. But as far as right now, it's pretty normal. There was that concern about the test and quarantine, but that was somebody suggesting it. There was a court suggesting it, but there's been a lot of blowback, and that was set aside. So I doubt that's ever going to happen. When I saw that, I said, no, I'm going to stand, because that would put restrictions on people coming here, and they don't, that's not of Colombia. What is this? How do you get your debit there in Armenia? I haven't needed to. Next year I'll need to get one, but there's a lot of ways to do it. I can have it sent FedEx. I can. I think I have to pay them an extra $15 to do that. I could have somebody bring it down, have it sent to them. There's hardly a month goes by when somebody isn't coming down this way. So for me, it's not a concern. And really, I think worst case is have it FedEx to you and pay, $15 or $20 fee. But then you don't need to do it again for, how long is a debit card good for? It's like 5 years or something. It's a long time. Hopefully we can get together and have some coffee in January. No problem. I'm here. I enjoy this coffee time. Okay, good. I'm glad. I get talking about this and sometimes I don't even understand myself. So, all right, we're going to end it here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And see you next coffee time. Oh, I got a video on the Bucaramanga Mall coming out.